Hi, and welcome to today's Daily Chronicle. Today is Friday, February 14th, 2025. Some red states report 0 abortions. Doctors and researchers say it's not true. The waiting room at Alamo Women's Reproductive Services emptied the day the Supreme Court overturned Roe v. Wade, making it certain abortion would become illegal in Texas. The state is among nearly a dozen with laws criminalizing abortions that report 0 or only a handful of abortions in 2023. In Arkansas, state health officials announced a stunning statistic for 2023. The total number of abortions in the state, where some 1.5 million women live, was 0. In South Dakota, too, officials records show 0 abortions that year. And in Idaho, home to abortion battles that have recently made their way to the U.S. Supreme Court, the official number of recorded abortions was just 5. In nearly a dozen states with total or near total abortion bans, government officials claimed that 0 or very few abortions occurred in 2023, the first full year after the Supreme Court eliminated federal abortion rights. Those statistics, the most recent available and published in government records, have been celebrated by anti-abortion activists. Medical professionals say such accounts are not only untrue, but fundamentally dishonest. To say there are no abortions going on in South Dakota is ludicrous, said Amy Kelly, an OBGYN in Sioux Falls, South Dakota, citing female patients who have come to her hospital after taking abortion pills or have medical procedures meant to prevent death or end non-viable pregnancies. I can think of 5 off the top of my head that I dealt with, she said, and I have 15 partners. For some data scientists, these statistics also suggest a troubling trend: the potential politicization of vital statistics. It's so clinically dishonest, said Ushma, a public health scientist at the University of California, San Francisco, who co-chairs We Count, an academic research effort that has kept a tally of the number of abortions nationwide since April 2022. The group recorded a slight rise in abortions nationally in 2023. The zeroing out is statistically unlikely, Ushma said, and also runs counter to the reality that pregnancy comes with many risks, and in many cases, emergency abortion care will be needed. We know that sometimes necessary to save the pregnant person's life, she said, so I do hope there are abortions occurring in South Dakota. State officials reported a sharp decline in the official number of abortions after the Supreme Court overturned Roe v. Wade in June 2022. Arkansas reported 0 abortions in 2023. Compared with 1,621 in 2022. Texas reported 60 in 2023 after reporting 50,783 abortions in the state in 2021. Idaho reported 5 in 2023 compared to 1,553 in 2021. South Dakota, which had severely restricted abortions years ahead of the Dobbs ruling, reported 0 in 2023 compared with 192 abortions in 2021. Anti-abortion politicians and activists have cited these statistics to bolster their claims that their decades-long crusade to end abortion is a success. Undoubtedly, many Arkansas pregnant mothers were spared from the lifelong regrets and physical complications abortion can cause, and babies are alive today in Arkansas. Rose Mims, Executive Director of Arkansas Right to Live, Right to Life, said in a press statement, "That's a win-win for them and our state." A spokesperson for Arkansas Department of Health, Ashley Whitlow, said in an email that the department is not able to track abortions that take place out of the state or outside the healthcare facility. State officials said, collect data from in-state providers and facilities for the induced abortion data reports as required by Arkansas law. We count tallies of observed telehealth abortions do not appear in the official state numbers. For instance, from April to June 2024, it counted an average of 240 telehealth abortions a month in Arkansas. Groups that oppose abortion rights acknowledge that state surveillance reports do not fully tell the story of abortion care occurring in their states. Mims of Arkansas's Right to Life says she would not expect abortions to be reported to the state, since the procedure is illegal, except to prevent a patient's death. Women are still seeking out abortions in Arkansas, whether it's illegally or going out of state for illegal abortion. Mims told KFF Health News, "We're not naive." The South Dakota Department of Health compiles information it receives from healthcare organizations around the state and reports it accordingly. Tia Kafka, its marketing and outreach director, said in an email responding to questions about the statistics. Kafka declined to comment on specific questions about abortions being performed in the state or characterizations the South Dakota's report is flawed. Kim Florin, who serves as director of the Justice Empowerment Network, which funds and practical support to help South Dakota patients receive abortion care, expressed disbelief in the state's official figures. In 2023, we served over 500 patients, she said. Most of them were from South Dakota. For better or worse, government data is the official record, said Ishan Mehta, Director for Media and Democracy at Common Cause, a non-bipartisan public interest group. You're not just reporting data. You're feeding into an ecosystem that is going to have much larger ramifications. When there is a mismatch in the data reported by state governments and credible researchers, including We Count and the Guttmacher Institute, a reproductive health search organization that supports abortion rights, state researchers need to dig deeper, Maida said. This is going to create a historical record for archivists and researchers and people who are going to look at the decades-long trend and try to understand how big public policy changes affected maternal health care, Mehta said. And now, the record keepers don't seem to be fully thinking through the ramifications of their actions. A culture of fear. Abortion rights supporters agree that there has been a steep drop in the number of abortions in every state that enacted laws criminalizing abortions. In states with total bans, 63 clinics have stopped providing abortions, and doctors and medical providers face criminal charges for providing or assisting in abortion care in at least a dozen states. Practitioners find themselves working in a culture of confusion and fear, which could contribute to hesitancy to report abortions. Despite some state efforts to make clear when abortion is allowed. For instance, Melissa Magstad, Secretary for Health for South Dakota, released a video to clarify when abortion is legal under the state's strict ban. The procedure is legal in South Dakota only when a pregnant woman is facing death. Magstad says the doctors should use reasonable medical judgment and document their thought process. Any doctor convicted of performing an unlawful abortion faces up to 2 years in prison. In the place of reliable statistics, academic researchers at We Count use symbols like dashes to indicate they can't accurately capture the reality on the ground. We try to make an effort to make clear that it's not zero. That's the approach these departments of health should take, said We Count's Ushma, adding that health departments should acknowledge that abortions are happening in their states, but they can't count them because they have created a culture of fear, a fear of lawsuits, having licenses revoked. Maybe that's what they should say, she said, instead of putting a 0 in their reports. Mixed mandates for abortion data. For decades, dozens of states have required abortion providers to collect detailed demographic information on the women who have abortions, including race, age, city, and county, and in some cases marital status and the reason for ending the pregnancy. Researchers who compile data on abortion say there can be sound public health reasons for monitoring the statistics surrounding medical care, namely, to evaluate the impact of policy changes. That has become particularly important in the wake of the Supreme Court's 2022 Dobbs decision, which ended the federal right to an abortion and opened the door to laws in Republican-led states restricting and sometimes outlawing abortion care. Isaac Maddow Zimet, a gut matcher data scientist, said data collection also has been used by abortion opponents to overburden clinics with paperwork and force patients to answer intrusive questions. It's part of a pretty long history of those tools being used to stigmatize abortion, he said. In South Dakota, clinic staff members were required to report the weight of the contents of the uterus, including the woman's blood, a requirement that has no medical purpose and had the effect of exaggerating the weight of pregnancy tissue, said Kim Florin, who worked at a clinic that provided abortion care before the state's ban. It was a procedural abortion. You had to weigh everything that came out and write that down on the report, Florin said. The Centers for Disease Control and Prevention does not mandate abortion reporting, and some Democratic-led states, including California, do not require clinics or healthcare providers to collect data. Each year, the CDC requests abortion data from the central health agencies for every state, the District of Columbia and New York City. And these states and jurisdictions voluntarily report aggregated data for inclusion in the CDC's annual abortion surveillance report. In states that mandate public abortion tracking, hospitals, clinics, and physicians report a number of abortions to state health departments in what are typically called induced termination of pregnancy reports, or ITOPs. Before Dobbs, such reports recorded procedural and medication abortions. But following the elimination of federal abortion rights, clinics shuttered in states with laws criminalizing abortion. More patients began assessing abortion through online organizations, including aid access, that do not fall under mandatory state reporting laws. At least 6 states have enacted what's called shield laws to protect providers who send pills to patients in states with abortion bans. That includes New York, where Linda Prine, a family physician employed by Aid Access, prescribes and sends abortion pills to patients across the country. Asked about states reporting 0 to few abortions in 2023, Prine said she was certain those statistics were wrong. Texas, for example, reported 50,783 abortions in the state in 2021. Now the state reports on average 5 a month. In 2023, Aid Access absolutely mailed pills to all 3 states in question: South Dakota, Arkansas, and Texas. Prine said, "We counted on average of 2,800 telehealth abortions a month in Texas from April to June 2024. Texas Attorney General Ken Paxton filed a lawsuit in January against A New York physician, Maggie Carpenter, co-founder of the Abortion Coalition of Telemedicine. For prescribing abortion pills to a Texas patient in violation of Texas' near total abortion ban. It's the first legal challenge to New York's shield laws and threatens to derail access to medication abortion. Good government groups like Common Cause say that the dangers of officials relying on misleading abortion statistics are myriad, including disintegration of public trust, as well as ill-informed legislation. These concerns have been heightened by misinformation surrounding healthcare, including an entrenched and vocal anti-vaccine movement, and the objections of some conservative politicians to mandates related to COVID-19, including masks, physical distancing, and school and business closures. If the state is not going to put in a little more than the bare minimum to just find out if their data is accurate or not, Maida said, we are in a very dangerous place. New Mexico jury convicts a former officer in fatal shooting of black man at gas station. Former Las Cruces police officer Brad Lunsford looks toward the gallery during his trial in the fatal shooting of Presley Ease in Las Cruces, New Mexico on February 4th. Santa Fe, New Mexico. A former police officer was found guilty Wednesday of voluntary manslaughter in the fatal shooting of a black man during a 2022 confrontation at a New Mexico gas station. Las Cruces police officer Brad Lunsworth's verdict in the jury trial was the latest outcome in cases that prosecutors have linked to systematic brutality against black people by members of law enforcement. Nearly 5 years after the May 2020 killing of George Floyd by a white police officer in Minneapolis. Lunsford, who is white, had pleaded not guilty. His attorney, Jose Coronado, said he will ask the judge to review the verdict for its legal sufficiency. While I respect the jury's verdict, I'm extremely disappointed in it. I don't believe the state met its burden, he said in an email to the Associated Press. Prosecutors said he shot Presley Ease at a point-blank range in a scuffle after police responded to a 911 call from a gas station attendant who reported that Easy stole beer. Ease allegedly placed his hand on a second officer's stun gun before being shot. Attorney General Raul Torres said that the use of deadly force was not reasonable, noting that Lunsford immediately drew his service weapon and shot Ease in the back of the head. Today's verdict reaffirms a fundamental principle. No one is above the law, not even those sworn to uphold it. Officer Lunsford's actions were not just a tragic lapse in judgment. They were an egregious abuse of power that cost Presley Ease his life, Torres said in a statement after the verdict was announced. The charge of voluntary manslaughter with firearms enhancement carries a possible sentence of up to 9 years in prison. Evidence at trial included body camera video of the confrontation, in which police pulled Ease from a vehicle and the struggle ensued. Philip Tinson, a professor of criminal justice at Bowling Green State University in Ohio, said the most fatal shootings by on-duty officers are determined to be legally justified under precedent stemming from two 1980s era U.S. Supreme Court rulings. It is incredibly difficult for a prosecutor to obtain conviction in a jury trial in one of these cases, and that's because jurors are very reluctant to second guess the split second, often life or death decisions of an on-duty police officer in a potentially violent street encounter. Stinson said, "Anything can happen, but it's only in the most egregious cases." Records compiled by Stinson, university colleagues, and students through the Police Integrity Research Group show that 205 non-federal law enforcement officers have been arrested on criminal charges of homicide or manslaughter over the past 20 years, resulting in 66 convictions, 27 convictions of them for manslaughter or homicide. If you do get a conviction, it's often for lesser offense, Stinson said. More than 900 fatal shootings by on-duty state and local law enforcement officers typically take place each year in the U.S., he said. In pursuing a criminal charge against Lunsford, Torres described the killing of Ease as a tragedy and yet another example of poor police tactics resulting in the unjustifiable use of force to subdue an individual resisting arrest for the commission of a minor crime. Trump administration set to purchase $400 million worth of armored Teslas. A Tesla Cybertruck among the beach in Boca Chica, Texas, on November 18, 2024. The Trump administration is expected to purchase $400 million worth of armored Tesla trucks, according to the new State Department document detailing procurement for fiscal year 2025. Tesla chief executive Elon Musk is a top White House official who has been leading the Department of Government Efficiency, a unit focused on shrinking the federal workforce and ferreting out corruption. The document does not specify what Tesla vehicles will be purchased by U.S. officials, but Musk's Cybertruck, with its materialistic design and stainless steel exterior, could be an option. After reports circulated Wednesday night of the State Department's intent to purchase Tesla vehicles, the document was edited at 9:12 p.m. and now says the federal contract is for $400 million worth of armored electric vehicles, but the word Tesla was removed. Responding to a segment by NBC's Rachel Maddow about the $400 million contract, Musk wrote on X on Wednesday night, "Hey, Aunt Maddie, why the lie?" The State Department and Musk did not return requests for comment. Musk, who spent more than $250 million to help elect Trump, has used an X account devoted to Doge to highlight what he views as excessive or unnecessary federal contracts. As Musk deputies have gained access to nearly 24 federal agencies, ethics experts have raised concern about the billionaire running into conflicts of interests. Since Musk runs 6 companies, some of which are under investigation by government authorities, Musk companies, including Tesla and SpaceX, also have multi-billion-dollar contracts with the federal government. Most of the federal money Musk has received has gone to SpaceX, the rocket company, for projects including the work for NASA to launch Musk's Starship with astronauts to the moon. A new Cybertruck starts at around $82,000, and about $38,000 were sold last year, according to Cox Automotive. Since the vehicle's launch in 2019, the truck has raised complaints about rust, finger pinches, and defected accelerator pedals. The State Department document also shows that some Tesla competitors are set to receive lucrative yet considerably smaller contracts for armored vehicles, including from BMW, which is expected to supply about $40 million worth of SUVs to the federal government.